Welcome to the Rethink and Return podcast. My name is Jason Shepard. Every week, we rethink things and return to God's original intention and His design. We generally do 2 recordings a week. One, we revisit a passage of Scripture that thousands of people are studying together in a Sunday gathering or in a house church, and we're just going to dig more deeply into these things that we didn't get to talk about enough or want to talk about more that we're wrestling with. And then we do another recording where we're just working out leadership things, being a pastor and ministry or leading stuff, and wrestling with tensions of how we live like that in our world today. So we'd love for you to like this, subscribe to it, share it with other people. Enjoy the podcast. We'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Rethink and Return podcast. I love every week we get to sit down and talk about a passage of Scripture that a lot of people are studying through, but I especially love it when cool people come into town and we get to sit down at the table together. And a lot of times pastors will come in for conferences like this week, and a dude who is the dude named Josh Hussman is in town. Josh, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. Love all that you do here at Church Project and pumped to be a part of this.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Man, introduce yourself a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where you live, what you've done, and what you're doing now.
Yeah. Live in Indiana. Lead a family of churches called Mercy Road. And we also started Multiply Indiana, a collaborative church planting network. We've planted a little over 40 churches in the last 10 years. And
crazy.
Getting ready to plant a Mercy Road church in Ivory Coast, Africa.
It's a big deal, man.
Yeah.
You know, over the years, I mean, we're hosting Exponential this week, and I love those guys, the people who lead it and the organization. And they told me years ago, they're like, you got to know Josh Hussman. They're like, Mercy Road, Indiana, Multiply, Indiana. You have a lot in common. You think a lot alike. You like each other. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
Then I meet you, and I'm like, this cat is a cool dude, man. And I've been glad to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember that. And I remember I was telling you earlier that I wasn't sure I wanted to meet you. You know, you get introduced like that, I'm always like, I'm not going to like this person. Yeah, right. And then, you know, I got like too much pride and probably need to repent. But I remember meeting you and going, okay, yeah. And then like hearing all the way that you guys have sacrificed, I have a lot of respect for the sacrifice for the kingdom, the way that you all have led. So
thanks, man.
I'm so grateful they introduced this.
Well, me too. And it's been great to get to know you because I like people who are pirates a little bit, you know, who are like, I'm going to be about the local church, but we got to go about it a different way. And people who are gritty, and you guys are gritty. I got to sit with some people from your team and some people from Multiply, Indiana, and some people from Mercy Road with you last night. Yeah. And dude, and be in a room with y'all yesterday, and I'm like, I just like a lot of things about you guys. Mm-hmm. Something had to shift at some point, right, in our minds about how we're doing what we're doing since it's a little different. How did that shift happen for you? What took place?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, when I first got called to church planting, I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was living in Southern California. My wife's from there. I tell people, if you remember the TV show Saved by the Bell, they had the Valley Girls on there. That's where she was from, the Valley of Southern California. Right. She totally talked like that, and moving to Indiana was never on her radar.
That'd be tough.
And within 6 months of this, I had a prayer moment where I felt very strongly that the Lord was telling us to move to Indiana, start a church, and 3 friends of mine from high school were going to help us.
Wow.
Just completely out of the blue. Within 6 months of that prayer, my Southern California wife and I and our firstborn son were living in Indiana and planting a church.
Wow.
But we got there, and a month in, found that our unborn son, our second child, had a genetic disorder. And so, you know, we started praying for a miracle, and he wasn't supposed to make it full term. He did. He was born. He wasn't supposed to live. He did. And after 2 weeks in the ICU, it looked like we were going to be able to take him home. And then he ended up taking a turn for the worse and ended up passing away after 2 weeks. And we were in the middle by that point, so we found out a month in, but it was about 6 months in when he was born and then passed, and it was just obviously devastating.
Yeah.
And you go from, Lord, use us, to going, how in the world am I supposed to function?
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember getting so desperate in the worst moment of my life. And it's taken me 15 years to say this, genuinely. I don't even know if I've ever said it out loud, but I've realized that the first time that happened, you get crushed, but it took me 15 years to begin to realize that was, spiritually speaking, one of the greatest gifts that the Lord ever gave me. And what I mean by that is, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, going through something like that.
Yeah.
But what it did, it showed me how short life was.
Yeah.
And as a young 30-something at the time, it showed me like all the stuff that I spent my whole life worrying about. When you're living in an ICU for 2 weeks, and they just always assume you're going to be sitting there and you don't know what's going on in the world around you, you stop caring about all those little things.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure.
And so that was the moment for me. If you want to know, like I got that low, we were planting a church, and it just gave me a desperation for the Lord like I had never had. And I do think in those moments you can either be angry at God and run, or you can turn to him and let him heal. And, you didn't ask this, but there was a real encouragement at that moment where my son, who passed, we had to do a funeral we didn't know how to do that. It's strange seeing such a small casket, and we had to go find where can he be buried. And we found a place that we chose the plot, and we found out it was the John the Baptist section of the cemetery is what they referred to it as. And began to think about the story of John the Baptist. He paved the way for all of Jesus' ministry, did all this sacrificial stuff. And the way he is rewarded for it is he has his head chopped off for a pretentious woman at a party, and he received none of his reward this side of heaven. I began to realize that we don't get to choose our outcomes in life, but we get to choose whether we're faithful or not. So I chose to turn to the Lord, and that desperation that he created in my life, it made it so that those first 2 years of church planting, we connected with so many hurting and broken, unchurched people.
I bet.
And so, if you're asking me what the turning point was, that was it. Because I realized my joy and my success as a church planter or lead pastor was not going to be found in the church or how many people showed up on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's good.
It was going to be found in, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And am I being faithful with the time and the resources I've been entrusted with?
Yeah.
I don't think most people at that age come to that realization yet.
Yeah, no. Well, that's a hard way to come by it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
And, I think there might be in all of our flesh, I don't know. I think it's in a lot of people, some thought that, hey, if I'm going to serve you, Lord, I'm going to move from Cali to Indy. I mean, who does that if you don't love Jesus a lot?
Yeah.
And so, you're going to go do all this, serve the Lord, young couple plant a church, and then he allows something like this to happen. I mean, that would be redefining in your life. And I think it would get rid of any idea that, hey, I'm going to get something back from God for serving him. It changes, I would imagine, your whole reason for serving, because it just take away the idea, hey, God, life's not going to be easier for me because I'm planting a church.
Yeah. No. And somebody who, frankly, is not naturally in touch with my emotions, I've found God just connected me with so many hurting people during that season that I cried with guys who were going through other hard things. And, I know I would never want to live through that again.
Oh, yeah.
But it did change my whole perspective of what we're doing in ministry and where I'm going to find my joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be in some superficial attendance sheet or
that's good.
Whatever else.
I think, if some people are listening who lead a ministry, it is really good to know, but really for all of us, while we serve the Lord, life's going to be happening, man. I mean, life can get really, really hard when we're serving the Lord. There's really no exemption for those of us who say, I'm gonna serve the Lord in ministry. I mean, we're all humans here, wherever we go to work or park our cars or cash our checks from.
Yeah. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight, right? there was a relinquishment of control and trusting that by serving the Lord, you're going to trust him with the results, whether good or bad, because he doesn't promise the results that you want.
That's right.
And I used to compare it to like going sledding down a mountainside. You relinquish control, you're flying down the mountain. I did that once with a group of young adults in California up at Big Bear, and I ran into a concrete wall.
Did you really?
That was at the bottom, was drainage for the runoff.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in ministry, that's what it's like. You relinquish control, and sometimes there's a wall there that you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking like, how did that even happen? And I think when that happens to us spiritually, we assume we must have done something wrong. But, anyway, the point being, I don't want hardship in my life the way it did. And if I'm being honest, I've prayed, God, grow my faith without suffering.
Oh, yeah.
I've literally prayed that prayer.
I understand.
But I also think that God can use those moments in powerful ways. And so that's why after 15 years, I can finally say the greatest gift I got spiritually, not humanly.
I understand.
Was having to endure that.
I mean, it is, the greatest trial of my life, very different from yours. Wouldn't compare it at all. But for me, the deepest, darkest season of pain, for me, that verse in James came to mind. James chapter 1, verse 2, consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith will develop perseverance, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything.
Yeah, wow.
I laughed at God. I'm like, are you reminding me of this verse right now? You want me to have joy in the middle of this? But you do look back. I mean, the sovereignty of God is so, for me, beautiful that he can take any broken thing on this planet and turn it into something really beautiful and powerful. That, for me, is just a continual picture of the gospel at work. I take brokenness, pain, death, horrible things, and I can turn them into something that gives life,
Amen, man. That's, I've never really thought of it, but that's a big part of where, as you're describing that, like you don't see joy at all, but on the back end, like that's really where Multiply Indiana came from. This collaborative network of churches working together, cross-pollinate with inner city planters, rural planters, suburban planters, praying and fasting together. And like all of that really came from when we moved to Indiana, knew nothing about church planting. There was a church, Bridgeway Community Church in Fishers, Indiana, that the lead pastor, Craig Parker at the time, invited me in, gave me office space, had me preach, said anybody wants to go support a go. And when he did that, he had just a few people go with us. Most of the people in the church didn't know those people. They became the core leaders of our church.
Wow.
And I realized like how much potential there is if we weren't scared of stuff.
That's right, yeah.
And so that hardship moment of what the Lord did ended up connecting me to a place like Bridgeway Church, which then showed me like, hey, we can do this for other people, which led to Multiply Indiana and like all these church plants and all these things. And you can trace it back to a lot of that pain. But I didn't consider the trials pure joy at the time.
I think I don't know if God expects that to happen. If like I don't know how it would work against our own ethos, even a redeemed ethos, to go, hey, this is, I'm happy right now in this moment.
Right.
But I think at least there's a thread of this as I continue to mature. When I go through things, to go, man, God somehow is going to use this.
Yeah.
And, I Psalm 23, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death and I fear no evil. I think for people who walk through the valley, they get to the other side, you fear a lot less. Like I get through the valley of the shadow of death, like, man, I was just close to dying and or wanting to be dead or thinking I would be dead.
Right.
And then you get through the valley of the shadow of death, just in the shadow of it. I walk through the valley and I fear no evil. And I'm like, if you can get through what you got through, or I can get through the things I've got through, or other people can, it takes fear away. And I think,
that's a good point.
I think it requires that. I mean, for me, it has the things that God's called me to do. In my flesh, I would be really naturally fearful. The things we're doing now, like if I consider the magnitude of it, it feels for me really weighty.
Yeah.
But because I know God's taking me through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm just a lot less afraid than I used to be.
You said something, though, that you said as you grow in maturity, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but because I do think we have a choice in the valley. Mm-hmm. We can choose to grow in maturity, like you're describing, or we can also choose jadedness.
That's right.
Because I've also met people that are my age or aging, and they have become more jaded rather than less fearful. And that type of faithfulness, like there is a choice involved there.
Yeah.
And I'm having to remind myself of that because I've been doing ministry long enough.
That's
that,
right.
There are times I'm like, man, I know when I was in my early 30s and went through that, losing a child, I chose that. But like, would I choose it now? Right? Like that's like, I want to still believe in that big God that is capable and can get us through the valley. And but
I think I was at a funeral with some other pastors sitting here. A pastor friend had gone through a tragedy in his family, and I leaned over. I guess I should say his name because he really helped me there. I'll attribute it to him, but I leaned over to Matt Chandler, who was sitting next to me, and I said, "Dude, I don't know if I could make it through what our friend here is going through."
Yeah.
And Matt said, "God would give you the grace in the moment that you needed." And I'm like, because I have often thought too, if I had to go through again something like what I went through, and again, not comparing, very different.
Yeah.
But if I had to go through what I went through again, I don't know if I can make it. And, it's just like, we know we're not impenetrable, invincible people.
Right.
But God gave you the grace at that time to go through the unimaginable thing you went through, and he gave me the grace to go through what I went through. And I think that is good for us to know God will give you the grace in that moment to go through what you went through. And so if I believe that, and I do believe that, he did that for me. I believe that he would do that again. If God forbid I had to go through something that heavy again, and the same for you and others.
Yeah.
I think you said something too that I think is really helpful. Like, what's some great person in the past said, God will not use a man greatly until he wounds him deeply. And I heard that the first time. I'm like, I don't like that at all. I don't accept that. I'll be the guy who that doesn't apply to.
I've heard Rick Warren say some things on that, and I just, in general, look, I don't think you have to go through horrific things for God to use you, but I do think when you have gone through that, people would often point us to Romans 8:28, during that time of like, God will use all things for his glory.
Wrong time to say it.
No, I didn't really want to hear it, but there was a verse in there that precedes that. I believe it's verse 18 when he talks about this present suffering, because that's what I was experiencing, does not compare to the glory that will be revealed in us.
That's right.
Talking about being in the presence of the Lord in heaven, and the glory of God and experiencing that. And I have tried to keep that in mind, because when you have been wounded, I think that God can use you if you keep like the internal perspective that he demonstrates for us, that you're not from here. This isn't your eternal home.
Thank God.
Yes, amen. And that means we get to look with joy of what's to come. And this is an opportunity.
That's right.
To invest in things that last eternal.
Well said. And I think, if Jesus, one of the most attractive things about our God to us is that he was willing to step in here with us. I like to say he was born because we're born. He lived here because we live here. He suffered because we suffer. He died because we die. But he raised back to life because we could not. But he came here. He wasn't distant. And I think for any pastor who's listening to go, hey, you're going to be as human as the people in your seats, man. The people across the tables from you and the living rooms from you. And they're going to go through stuff, and so are you. And it would be really wild for us to think, hey, because I'm sacrificing or serving or doing a leading or doing this, then God's going to make me exempt, when Jesus himself stepped into this place with us. Amen. And so for us to think that we're not going to have the same human stuff, I mean, we're humans ourselves, man. We struggle with our own depravity. We're being sanctified ourselves. But I think just to go, hey man, it normalizes us as people that we're pastoring to go, you've been through some struggles, I've been through some struggles.
Yeah.
And I can understand and sympathize with them in a whole new way. Whatever the pain is,
Yep.
I know pain. I don't know that exact pain, but I know what pain does to a person at its deepest level.
And as you do that, remembering what's on the other side, after that first year and the horrific stuff, we also then got to experience joy-filled moments where God showed up in ways where we got so desperate for him that he showed up in people's lives and used us to minister to them in ways we didn't expect. Mm-hmm. In our early days of church planting, we met in a school, and then we met in a tiny little lease building. I think the auditorium, and I use that in quotations, was like a few hundred square feet or something. We were doing 5 services, and we had less than 500 people attending the church. Wow. It was wild, so we didn't have to do it. But when I share that to say, I didn't anticipate that stuff happening. Mm-hmm. I just thought, hey, the Lord called us to help minister to people.
Yeah.
And then when we got to see the back end of what faithfulness looks like and the impact that can come with that, that is contagious. It's addicting. It's like you want more of the Lord showing up in your life. And that's where, you don't get to choose the results.
Right.
But you get to celebrate the high moments. Mm-hmm. And as you endure the low moments, he transforms you into a more faithful person if you choose it.
Yeah, I keep hearing you say that, and I think that's really important to focus on because, like I said, we're all normal human beings going through this, still being sanctified, and we still have to choose to submit to this sanctification, to follow the Spirit. And when we go through a trial, you're right. I spoke with a business leader this morning, and he's struggling with some employees in his company, and he said, for me, I wrestle with not being jaded. And I'm like, hey, dude, I get that. And we talked about generosity and grace to his employees, that it's never equal in response. Mm-hmm. And I think learning, hey, I just have to be generous if God's called me to be generous. Give grace if God's called me to give grace. Be faithful where God's called me to be faithful. I'm actually not in charge at all of how other people are going to respond or what's going to happen. They leave or come or go or stay or whatever. We're in charge of very little. I think, maybe a little transition here a little bit to what it feels like to be a pastor. But this week, I love this week because I get to hang out with a lot of pastors that I love and respect, But a lot of us have some stories of tough stuff, man. I like to say I'm in charge of very little, but we get blamed for a lot, Yeah. And so there have been, I think, things in all of our lives as pastors. I like to say there's comfort in the commiseration. When I sit down with people that I really love and respect and know, hey, pastoring has been beautiful and it's been brutal. And so
that's the truth.
Yeah, and I think maybe just principally on that, not specific situations, but principally, how have you seen that to be true? Man, pastoring is beautiful, but you're also, there's no way to avoid it also at times being brutal.
And I want to clarify too, I think we get to choose for that faithfulness, but we don't get to choose what we feel or our response or there are moments where there are things out of our control. But when I look at those experiences we had throughout 15 years of church planting and empowering and sending and doing all of that, we had amazing experiences and continue to. People that had nothing to do with the Lord, so far from God.
Yeah.
And we got to see them experience what it's like to know their supernatural creator, redeemer, reconciler. And their lives are changed. One of those guys, he's a 60-year-old lawyer who is Jewish by descent, was agnostic when I met him. He started coming. I invited him to coffee, and we started meeting once a month to talk about spiritual things. He called it a small group. It was just the two of us.
That was small.
Yeah. And over 3 years, we met. And I remember a board member telling me, why do you keep meeting with that person? You're wasting all your time. And I was like, well, I feel like this is what the Lord would want me to do. So he over those 3 years, he started praying. He began to pray in the name of Jesus, like communicating with Jesus. And so he got to the point where I was like, dude, why haven't you been baptized and fully surrendered? And he was hung up on a couple of theological things. And I said, and one of them was the divinity of Jesus. I said, well, why don't you've been praying to him for 2 years? Why don't you pray to him? Ask him. And so he did. He went and he's sitting in his car. He's getting ready to go into Dick's Sporting Goods. He prays, Lord, if you are divine, if Jesus, if you're God incarnate, I will worship you. But tell me if I should worship you. And he goes in, he's in Dick's Sporting Goods, and this song, as he's checking out, comes on by Fatboy Slim called Praise You Like I Should.
Yeah.
And those lyrics are going,
I know that
praise
song.
you like I should.
That's a great song.
Yeah. And so David actually breaks down in tears.
Come on.
At the cash register.
First person who ever cried at Fatboy Slim.
That's true. And so he called me right away and fully surrendered and got baptized. He's one of my best friends now. We're
awesome.
in a house church together. And so it just, like those are the joys, right?
That's right.
But then you have those moments where people I've poured into for years, people I loved, staff members got upset, left over something, didn't like a decision, whether I was right or wrong. Like it's like, I don't think people realize, not just to me, but to my wife, like how much pain there is. It's not like a normal career where when somebody comes to your company and you lose their business, you're sad because you lost their business. You have years or even decades of relationship with this person. They're friends, they're family, and like that part and it's not always bad. Like maybe the Lord just called them on to something else.
That's right, yeah.
It's just so painful and it's hard. And I think for my wife, who's somebody that has her own story of being abandoned, like it's just really hard. And so, I think that those low moments as a pastor, I don't know that people in the congregations really understand those.
Yeah.
And I heard a pastor, John Burke, once told me that he compared it to like a 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt much at the time, but after a lifetime of doing that, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I've seen and experienced that, but that's why, again, regardless of what we're going through or our experiences or feelings, we have the choice of, I think, of faithfulness and or whether to allow the jadedness that invades most human beings to take over.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, I feel it personally as you're sharing it. And the comfort is maybe somebody's listening to this. They feel it too. Oh, that does hurt too. Yeah. I've had, one of my pastor in my life who's 20 years older than me, he's told me this is the hardest thing. Leading staff for him is the hardest, but the personally pain is people in the church, things like that. And I don't know a way around it, Yeah. And but it's real, and it's present in the life of every pastor that I know. We have an axiom here. One of the things that I write down, we have some axioms that guide us, make us think a certain way. We got 11 groups of them, and under one of the groups, maybe 2 or 3 sometimes. But one of our axioms is it's not the sharks, it's the piranhas. Like, I'm not really concerned generally about the shark that's going to get us. There are some sharks out there, but I think, we're pretty protected. I am concerned about the piranhas. And like little by little, if we don't watch these things. And some of that is just how this is affecting our soul. Yeah. And people can even criticize you about how that you let that pain affect your soul, which is another source of pain. And so, hey man, we got just like 2 or 3 minutes left to honor the time that we said.
Yeah.
If you had one last thing to say to pastors, maybe sort of tying up this thread of conversation we had, think of some, 30-something-year-old dude who's like, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Yeah, well, 2 things. All right. Well, first of all, I want to follow up on what I did not say was I also have experienced people in our churches who are so loving and so kind. We have this couple that is in their 70s, Clint and Gail Booker, and they will just send me notes of encouragement. And if they only knew the impact that made, and the joy that it brings. So like I've always got to remember, it's not just like I get to choose the faithfulness and to suffer.
That's right.
It's like there are so many people like that and so many joy-filled moments. But if I got to say, and I think that's important for a 30-something who's starting out or a 20-year-old who's going to get into ministry or plant, I would add to that there's not just joy moments and there are incredible people that you encounter. I would tell them that do not diminish what is possible with the Lord. And I know that sounds cliche, but for me, I remember hearing Craig Rochelle make a statement about if we're going to reach people who aren't being reached, we're going to have to do things that others aren't doing. And I used to think of that as like an encouragement to think evangelistically. I began to think of that more of like, I should not underestimate what the Lord could do through the ministry that I get to be a part of.
Yeah.
And not just make it into some small-minded experience. I never would have thought that we would have planted all these churches, do anything. I would have been just happy to have a small church of unchurched people that I got to see come to faith.
Yeah. Same, actually.
And that would have brought me tons of joy. But like, we got to see all these things that I would never have thought possible. And I almost didn't get to see it because I had a small vision, a small dream.
Yeah.
I didn't really believe in the huge supernatural God that we serve and what's really possible.
That's good.
But it means we got to get close to him. We got to hit our knees, fast and pray.
That's right.
And say, Lord, we need you.
That's good.
That's what I would tell the younger version of me is, my best moments were when I hit my knees and believed the Lord could do the impossible.
I love that. That's a good word. Thanks for sharing that. I think I'll close with saying, I think as God, we want him to expand our capacity for leadership. He's also got to expand our capacity for pain, because although we may have 100 to 1 beautiful things happening to tough things, 1,000 to 1 is 1,000 to 10, or 10,000 to 100. And so our capacity for pain has to increase if he's going to also increase our capacity for the beauty. And so
good.
Sometimes the pain that you went through, which is unimaginable, uncomparable, or pain that I've gone through, God does use that even to increase our capacity to handle pain. Because there will be pain in this, but there's so much beauty. And at the end of the day, even if there wasn't beauty, like the great weeping prophet Jeremiah, hey man, I'm your humble servant. I've just done what is my duty to do. So let's serve him. And I like to say, let's serve Jesus until we see him.
I heard Larry Osborne once say in a small group of pastors, so it was okay to repeat, that the greatest indicator of a leader is how much pain they can endure and not quit.
Wow.
And I've never heard such a simple explanation of the capacity of a leader, how much pain you can endure and not quit.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that today. That's helpful for me right now. And I think it's especially true of leadership in the church. Hey, man, thanks, Josh. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
I love it.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If it's helpful for you, like it, subscribe to it, share it. That'll help it. If it's not helpful for you, why are you watching it? But thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon. Have a great week ahead. Thanks for spending time with us today on the Rethink and Return podcast. Here's all we ask from you. Will you subscribe to this, share this, let other people know about it? That'll help us get the message out. Share this content with other people if it's helpful to you. We're grateful for you. See you soon.